Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. Quite a few years ago, I made a video on WrestleMania 12, calling it one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. At that point, it was one of the WrestleManias that I least liked to watch. For some reason, fired up on Peacock last night. WrestleMania 11. It's not normally a WrestleMania that I think about that much. I was kind of thinking, like, when is WWE going to put Lawrence Taylor into the Hall of Fame? Kind of a tricky name that is out there, but, a celebrity that actually came in and wrestled a real match that sold a real pay-per-view. And not only that, the biggest pay-per-view of the year, WrestleMania. Let me tell you this. WrestleMania 11 is a forgotten about pay-per-view for a reason. This thing sucks. There ain't no other way. There's no way to candy coat this thing. There's no way to talk about it any other way. WrestleMania 11 is more than likely probably the worst WrestleMania that there is on the card. From the very beginning of the show, you feel that they are hyping up WrestleMania because of the fact two of the biggest stars that ever wrestled for the history of the WWF are now wrestling for WCW. They can't rely on the names of Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage because they don't want to put them over saying how good they used to be in the past because they're now wrestling for WCW. So your opening of WrestleMania isn't about how great the matches have always been. Your opening of WrestleMania is about how many celebrities flocked to WrestleMania, how it is the Super Bowl of wrestling. And they show a montage of Liberace to Muhammad Ali, Regis Philbin, all of the WrestleMania celebrities that have jumped in from year to year. Now, this year's WrestleMania 11 that happened in 1995, it is headlined by a celebrity, Lawrence Taylor, who had just retired as one of the best linebackers in the NFL, playing for the New York Giants. This Super Bowl being held in Hartford, Connecticut. Find that on a map for me. It is sort of close to the New York market, where a lot of New York Giants fans would go buy tickets to see their former legend wrestle in a wrestling match. The biggest plug of anybody on the show, going back to the Royal Rumble, would be that Pamela Anderson would be with the winner of the Royal Rumble who challenged the champion. That, of course, would be Shawn Michaels, some guy from NYPD Blue, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who was a huge name at the time. I would honestly say that if you were growing up in that time, he would be on the cover of all the Tiger Teen Beat magazines back in the day. He was kind of like the child heartthrob. It never really related to him having mainstream success. Besides for that one movie that he made with Chevy Chase. But, hanging out on Tool Time, Home Improvement with Tim Allen. He was kind of the one kid that everybody wanted to see. He ends up in the back just playing chess with Bob Backlund, I think is the biggest thing that he ends up doing on the entire show. Honestly, Bret the Hitman Hart, Shawn Michaels, Diesel, all on this show. And I understand why, Diesel versus Shawn Michaels is not the main event, even though it is the WWF Championship match. But it is a match that is really good, but yet it is a match that is very forgotten. Bret the Hitman Hart wrestles a match against Bob Backlund. Rivalry that goes back a year to Survivor Series, where Backlund beat him in an I Quit match, where they were doing a transfer of the title, where Bret lost it to Backlund, and the next night lost it to Diesel. You can go round and round whether they, just wanted to have a big guy in the territory hold the belt. If Bret just wasn't working and wasn't selling tickets anymore, I'm not quite sure. But you've got those three big names, and it is almost like they threw out the white flag on this show, just basically saying that they knew they weren't going to get it done. Honestly, at this time, they've got big names. They've got Hall of Famers on the roster. But they just didn't put it all together right. I mean, Lex Luger, the British Bulldog. You've got Razor Ramon, 123 Kid, Jeff Jarrett, the Roadie. Shoot, almost everybody on this damn show. The Undertaker, Yokozuna, Billy Gunn, Bret Hart, Bob Backlund, Diesel, Shawn Michaels, and Bam Bam Bigelow. Now that I said that, I'm gonna eat my words. I think 95% of the roster is in the WWE Hall of Fame. It's only the Blue Brothers, King Kong Bundy, Owen Hart, debatable. I always think that when Stu Hart got put in the Hall of Fame, I always feel like they put the whole Hart family in there, is how I remember it in my mind. Billy Gunn and Lawrence Taylor are your only non-WWE Hall of Famers. But yet, I think that just this time in wrestling, you're looking at April 2nd of 1995. So there is a WCW, but there is no Nitro. It is coming. Definitely two of the stars that really kicked them into high gear on Nitro with the NWO, Hall and Nash, are both still wrestling for WWF. They wouldn't leave until the following year. Of course, it was Bash to the Beach 1996 that everybody remembers. But it was earlier in the year when actually Hall showed up and then Nash showed up after them once their deals with Vince ended. But this pay-per-view started with the Blue Brothers, Jacob Blue and Eli Blue. Bad way to start. You've got Lex Luger and the British Bulldog, the Allied Powers, wrestling against them. Lex Luger, a singles Hall of Famer that during this show, Vince McMahon is putting together as a tag team guy now, saying how the Allied Powers came together. Him and British Bulldog are going to be teaming for years to come. Surprise, surprise, that, as soon as he can and his contract expires, Lex Luger calls up WCW, talks to Eric Bischoff through Sting, and ends up taking a lesser deal to go to WCW, realizing that his days in WWF are done. And it's quite possibly the first shot of the Monday Night War that would come between WWF and WCW. I don't know. You see two former singles guys wrestling as a tag. You see this sometimes at WrestleMania, but because they were really harping on the fact that they're going to be teaming forever, I don't know really what the plan was for the Allied Powers. But, with two dudes with attitude, Shawn Michaels and Diesel, kind of getting back together the next night, even though they're main eventing this show. Maybe the plan was to do like some in your house shows to build off of that. Not really quite sure, but not a good kickoff. Definitely so many WrestleManias. You have either like a fast-paced tag team match, you have like a cruiserweight match, just fast-paced action to get you ready. Like, this is WrestleMania, let's go. This was not a good kickoff at all. We follow it up with Razor Ramon coming to the ring with the 1-2-3 Kid. He's wrestling an Intercontinental Championship match. Intercontinental Champion Jeff Jarrett comes down with the Roadie. It looks like we're going to have an Intercontinental title change to change the mood of the show. But as Razor is about to hit the Razor's Edge, Road Dogg comes running in, causing the disqualification. The ref throws the match out. They were building towards tag matches of Razor and the Kid going against Jeff Jarrett and the Roadie. Kid ends up getting injured, and those plans down the road end up getting scrapped. But just an almost like, let's do it, we're going to see a title change. And it just doesn't happen via disqualification. WrestleMania is not the place for that. It makes me think of the disqualification that happened in the Nakamura versus AJ match, where we all thought we were going to see a title change with Nakamura winning the WWF Championship. Didn't happen. From there we go to the Streak. The Streak is referred to during The Undertaker's entrance, but it's not really the streak is just brought up as he's never lost at WrestleMania. Quite possibly one of the first times it's brought up. Quite possibly the first time maybe they noticed. But they'll keep rolling on down the road. We got The Undertaker coming out. He defeats King Kong Bundy. The biggest thing that happens in this match is that you have to remember during the Royal Rumble, IRS came down, roughed up Paul Bearer, stole the urn. Seconds, I'm telling you, seconds into this match, Undertaker walks over to Ted DiBiase. DiBiase does not want any of the smoke and just hands him the urn. Like, here, you have this. Undertaker walks it over, gives it back to his true owner, Paul Bearer. Paul Bearer holds it. Minutes into the match, aka the guy that was like looking like Street Fighter, but he ends up becoming the Godfather, comes walking down and he just takes the urn back. Storyline, he melts it down. That's what makes the Kama's big gold chain that he wears. All they're really doing is just putting the heat on the Kama, where you know that you're going to be watching an in your house Undertaker versus Kama match very soon. No chance in the world. Undertaker, he beats King Kong Bundy. It's funny. You would think that, King Kong Bundy, WrestleMania 2 main eventer, this being WrestleMania 11, he'd be looking old. He'd be looking over the hill. King Kong Bundy looked like King Kong Bundy. I mean, I think that King Kong Bundy could have kept wrestling if he would have been able to keep a job, for 10 more years. Easy after this. He still looked very, very young. Larry Young was the special guest referee of this match. I got no clue who the heck Larry Young is. If he's a former wrestler, if he was some sort of a like a celebrity. They just all of a sudden was like, your special guest referee, Larry Young. And I'm looking at it like, I got no clue who this guy is or why it matters. Next match, Owen Hart comes out with this special guest surprise tag team partner. Ends up being Yokozuna. There's heavily rumors out there that people thought that this was going to be Owen Hart bringing in Chris Benoit, a name you're not really supposed to say, but I mean the rumor's always been out there that Benoit was going to get picked up by the WWF. They were going to come in. They were going to be more of like a fast-paced, hard-hitting tag team. They ended up going with Yokozuna, and it was kind of like Yokozuna transferring out of the main event picture. Of course, he was a main event guy, WrestleMania 10, only a year ago, wrestling against Lex Luger as well as Bret the Hitman Hart. His weight had really gotten out of control. That's funny to say for a Yokozuna guy that was just supposed to be very, very big. But you're really seeing the downfall by the next year. I think Yokozuna is out of the wrestling business just because he's just too big. And he can't get cleared. I know the WCW tried to bring him in during a Hall versus Nash match to do a run-in, and he was not able to pass the commission testing. I don't think he ever ended up coming back after that, other than that Legends of Wrestling pay-per-view where he ended up being in the main event, and it seemed like they had to forklift him down to the ring or something like that. I didn't want to say anything bad about him, but it's the truth. Owen and Yoko win the belts here. It's the first kind of like really big moment of the entire show. From there, we go to Bret the Hitman Hart wrestling against Bob Backlund. Of course, this is like a rematch from Survivor Series, even though it's not really a rematch because Bob Backlund is not the champion anymore. Both of these guys were in the Royal Rumble. That's why they couldn't really do a big match after Survivor Series. But this is an I Quit match. Roddy Piper is your guest referee. Nothing really here. Quite possibly one of Bret Hart's worst WrestleMania matches. I don't know why he was selected to be in this spot, but I don't know if they were closing the door on Brett when they put him in spots like this, but there had to have been almost anywhere else that they could have put the guy. I know that, Bob Backlund is a respected WWF champion. He came back to the company that he was out of for like 13 years when he didn't agree with him losing the belt. Hulkamania coming in and taking over. Some people said that he also left because he was trying to support his son, who was wrestling. I think he's on the first WrestleMania, if I remember right. But bad match. Really, really bad match. From there, we go to Diesel going up against Shawn Michaels. The biggest storyline of this, of course, is Pamela Anderson from Baywatch coming in, and she's going to walk Shawn down. But moments before the match, we find out that Pamela Anderson just left. And Shawn is like, I'm going to have to find a backup role. He ends up walking out with Jenny McCarthy, Playboy Playmate. I think Playboy Playmate of the Year, might even have been Playboy Playmate of the Century. I'm not quite sure if Singled Out was on television at this time. I know at one point she ended up having like an NBC show. Very funny girl, and she had a huge career that lasted a long time. I see her on Twitter hawking makeup to this day, and I just wonder, like, either how much money does she need or how much money are they paying her is always the debate that I'm end up having in my head. But Pamela Anderson, she ends up popping out. She ends up coming out with Diesel. It's funny that I said popping out because it's actually Jenny McCarthy who pops out of her dress on the show. But Diesel versus Shawn, very, very good match. If you think about the Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan match at SummerSlam with Shawn overselling, there is definitely a point during this match where Shawn goes into oversell mode, and I'm sure he just did not understand why he was not getting the championship back. It's funny when I listen to Click This, the Kevin Nash podcast that comes out on Monday mornings. Diesel, Shawn, Triple H, X-Pac, those guys are thick as thieves. But when they talk about each other, all of them wanted to be number one. And there's only one spot to be there. So, as weird as Shawn is selling in this match, I don't think there was any hard feelings between Diesel and Shawn. I think he was just trying to get his message to Vince McMahon, which is kind of funny because now if you think about it, after Diesel wins this match, Diesel comes out on Raw, grants Shawn Michaels a rematch. Shawn immediately tells his bodyguard, Sid, that he didn't help him enough at WrestleMania, so he's not going to need his help going any further. Sid flips out, takes out Shawn, powerbomb. I believe it's 4 power bombs in a row. I haven't seen the Raw in a while. Diesel ends up having to come out and save Shawn, which puts them back together. Diesel and Shawn ends up becoming your main event going forward on the In Your House 1, In Your House 2. Shawn ends up going into a feud with, I believe, Jeff Jarrett after this, kind of like going after the Intercontinental Championship. So at least he's going after a title, but he definitely falls down in the main event. Maybe he rubbed Vince McMahon wrong at this time. But really not 100% quite sure. We go to the main event of this show. All bent out. It's just celebrity. Bam Bam Bigelow going up against Lawrence Taylor. For you who don't remember how this whole thing got started, basically Bam Bam Bigelow is a member of the $1 Million Corporation led by Ted DiBiase at the time. Bam Bam Bigelow was in a tag match at the Rumble. He ends up losing his tag match, and as he's leaving, Lawrence Taylor is kind of in his face, laughing at him, and Bam Bam Bigelow ends up shoving Lawrence Taylor. The first worked shoot of my life that I fell for. This shove, I remember, was on the sports machine. I remember it was on the news. It was on, the sports telecast. Everybody was putting this on. I didn't have cable at the time. I don't 100% remember if it was on ESPN. But I bet this was probably one of the first wrestling moments that I can remember that did transferred that probably deserved to be on SportsCenter. Lawrence Taylor comes out with his buddies. You see Hall of Famer Reggie White, Dallas Cowboy, who became a 49er, Ken Norton, who was a Hall of Famer, Steve Mongo McMichael, is one of the guys that ends up coming down. Bam Bam ends up coming out with the $1 Million Corporation guys, which surround the ring, almost making it like a lumberjack match, but it's not officially named a lumberjack match. But Bam Bam, he got paid a lot of money to do this job. And there was a lot of people who thought he shouldn't have done the job because, Lawrence Taylor was not a wrestler. I think the money that I've heard is $250,000. And now to this point, I mean, it took him a long time because he ended up having to leave WWF, go to ECW, go to WCW. He probably just worked independence after WCW closed because I don't really remember. But it was pretty early in the 2000s that Bam Bam dies. He doesn't go into the Hall of Fame until, I believe, it happened somewhere in that time period that I just really wasn't 100% into wrestling. 2019, maybe they didn't do it 2020, so maybe 2021. He was in that class, I believe. But he really helped Lawrence Taylor. When Lawrence Taylor wins this match, I mean, it took everything out of him. He was not selling. He was dying. He was blown up. But Lawrence Taylor gets the win. Big WrestleMania moment. I understand, Lawrence Taylor got in some trouble in his life. It's not highly remembered as like one of the best WrestleMania moments because I'm trying to word it right. What happened? He was paying for some prostitutes, and the prostitutes ended up being underage. So I'm not sure if when it went down, he went down for like underage sex or if he went down for prostitution. But one thing led to another. I'm pretty sure it was both, and I think that's the one reason why WWF hasn't put him up on the stage. I mean, no matter how you look at it, you can be like, oh, it wasn't that bad. It's still bad. It's bad. And that's not the kind of press that you want to put on your company. I know that Ric Flair is personally friends with him and has pushed for him to go into the Hall of Fame. And I don't know how far it's ever really gotten. It's been talked about where you see it pop up on sites from time to time. But I don't know. In my opinion, Lawrence Taylor, he was a celebrity who came into wrestling, who really did it. He gave his all. He WrestleMania, he main evented WrestleMania, even if it quite possibly is one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. In my opinion, I don't think I will ever watch this WrestleMania again. I think if maybe Lawrence Taylor actually goes into the Hall of Fame, maybe I would watch this match again. But for the rest of the show, I don't think anything is worth a rewatch. I know my buddy Miguel has reviewed this show years ago. I quite possibly would want to go back and watch his show. I don't remember if he ripped this show or if he has fond memories of it being like when he was watching wrestling that it was. But this is a bad show. As I just scrolled up for a minute, it says Kevin Green was one of the guys that was at the show as well. He did some wrestling for WCW. He was a really good linebacker. He might be in the NFL Hall of Fame. I don't really remember if he got in there or not, but a great linebacker with the Charlotte, I was going to call them the Hornets, the Charlotte Panthers. He ended up coming and finding a revival in his career with the 49ers for 1 year and then going to the Steelers. I'm pretty sure I remember him, but this is it. I'm not going to tell you to watch this because this is a bad show, but let's go.